Now, we all love good food, but how often do we pay tribute to the men and women who toil behind the scenes to create the wonderful dishes that end up on our plates?
Well, there is a national accolade that recognizes the efforts of key players in the food and beverage industry who have demonstrated exceptional service and utmost dedication to their craft. And it's called the World Gourmet Awards. And believe it or not, it's been around since 2001. More than 100 outstanding F&B and hospitality professionals and establishments in Singapore and around the region have received the World Gourmet Awards.
Well, these awards would not have come into being if not for Peter Knipp. He is best known as the German chef turned entrepreneur who, together with the Singapore Tourism Board, introduced the revolutionary World Gourmet Summit to Singapore in 1997. 4 years after this summit, Peter came up with the World Gourmet Summit Awards of Excellence, which are now known as the World Gourmet Awards.
Now, besides organizing gourmet events, Peter also runs a company, Peter Knipp Holdings Private Limited, that offers a wide range of services within the food and beverage hospitality sectors. He's also behind the e-zine called Cuisine and Wine Asia, which is the longest running digital publication of its kind here in Asia.
So it's time to get to know this passionate foodie who has channeled decades of experience into creating a one-stop solution center for all hospitality concept needs in the form of his F&B consultancy, Peter Knipp Holdings Private Limited. Peter, thanks so much for joining us today. Tell us, why did you start the World Gourmet Summit?
You know, when I arrived in Singapore in 1978, which is a long time ago, and then got my feet a little wet throughout Asia, I've spent now 32 years in Singapore, and obviously as a chef you spend a lot of time behind the stove in the kitchen. You see, I saw at that time how people were reacting, and it was very clear that at this time, and that's how WGS even started, very little did the public know about the food and beverage profession, very little accolades. They were simply not recognized. And you know, chefs are like artists. They feed not just on their salary and whatever else they're getting, but it is a compliment, it's a feedback, it's a recognition. And when we started this award, there was nothing like it. When we said, okay, yes, Michelin has their stars, Gourmet has their points, James Beard, there are many international awards. We wanted to take a slightly different tack. Even so, the Singapore mentality is very much about top stars and all that. What about those people that don't fall into this category yet, that the chefs, the restaurateurs, the hospitality professional cannot get their work done without their input? So it's not just awarding rising chefs, for example, the young chefs, the future. It's, of course, the hotel chefs and the restaurant chefs, which is two different animals. But what about the service professionals? Who recognizes the maitre d'hotel? Who recognizes the bartender? Who recognizes the banquet manager? I mean, everyone is getting married either one way or another, attends a function. There are people running the show. And whether it's for 100 people, 300 or 2,000, the knowledge, competency behind organizing, only the Army and maybe SIA have such kind of competency. So we never got recognized. Now, I've lived in Singapore, especially during the 80s, 80 to 85, when I used to cycle to work on my beloved Trekmore bicycle to the Hilton at that time, and after 30 years I'm still using the same brand. Likewise, when it comes to the food, we have a passion for things that we feel strongly about. We tend to go back to restaurants that we get recognized in. And, you know, in today's world, which has changed so much, service competency has started to fall. People do not come out of school and say, I want to be a service professional. I want to go into food service. I want to be a chef. Even so, chefs now, it's easier to get into because where they get inspiration to perform better in their line of profession.
And this is the Overseas Development Program?
That's the Overseas Development Program. That's where Singapore Tourism Board has put their full weight behind. We have competition, we have reviews. We then select the one person that we feel not only benefits of this program most, And I've seen MediaCorp being at our press conference last when we announced the awards being open. But they are also ambassadors of Singapore. What a lot of your listeners, readers, watchers don't realize, Singapore chefs have become a major export article. I very often get emails to say, I want a chef, Chinese cook. I say, go to China. No, I want a Singaporean. Singaporeans are very, they're very modern. They're very inspirational. Now, that makes me very proud. It's not like the driver on the street says, hey, you Ang Mo, go back home. I usually say, oh, you mean Yishun or you mean Ang Mo Kyo, And I'm actually moving to Sembawang very shortly, where my technology bicycle will serve me even better. But the people that judge these awards are basically the ones that come from the profession. And it changes. So we have a partially public input, but the public has not the final say. As I said, loving food does not equate knowing food. And very often the public wouldn't know the background of a banquet manager. So you have to use the peers. Okay? It's a little bit like the 100 best chefs in the world, where he takes the top, each one gives input on the top 5. So there's first a nomination process. Sometimes people get nominated in a category where it's not necessarily appropriate, and so we can rectify it there and then. So the process is very simple. We go first stage, second stage, and then we have 5 individuals that come to the office or that meet outside at the designated place and discuss the CVs and the background. They argue, they discuss, gives their input, and through an auditor, they then takes the law of averages, and that's how we achieve it.
Well, just for our listeners who have just tuned in, you're wondering who you're hearing from here on our program on Eat Drink Singapore. He is Peter Knipp, and he is the man behind the World Gourmet Summit, first introduced in 1997. 13 years on, it's still ongoing. It's undergone a little bit of a name change now as the World Gourmet Awards as well that we're hearing from. You mentioned also about how the Singapore brand name has been put out there to the world, and it's been doing great in terms of the world sitting up and saying, I want a Singaporean chef at their events overseas. How much credit do you, Peter, take to the fact that you have brought Singapore and put it on the spotlight?
Don't ever ask me that question. I'm not one to blow my own horn. I think you have to ask people in the industry, and like everyone else that has done so much, you will have the yay-sayers and you will have the opposition, but that's fine. Purely the fact that people copy our events speaks for itself, because there's no better compliment when people copy what you're doing. We have gone international. We had at one stage another event in the Middle East, and the Sydney Morning Herald voted the World Gourmet Summit and Gourmet Abu Dhabi as 2 of the top 7 festivals in the world. Do I need to say more? Copying one thing, but producing the same quality of results is generally not there. But let's talk a little bit about our industry and all that. The food and beverage scene has obviously evolved. When WGS started, there was one independent Western high-end restaurant at that time, which was Les Amis, which started roughly the
Still
same
around,
time.
yeah.
Still around.
Doing
now
well.
3 stars, doing extremely well. Now you have so many restaurants. Evolution. We have never taken the standard as a given. When I brought in the year 2000, Santi Santa Maria, a 3-star Michelin chef, God rest his soul, people called me up and say, Peter, this chef, he cooked tapas or not? Okay. He any good? Only has 3 Michelin stars.
Only.
The following year, his promotion was a disaster. Was 5, 10, 8 covers. Because what I found out, Singaporeans don't really like to try out. The Abangs and the Allianz like to wait for the Lee and the Tans to have tried it and tell them what's good or not. But what happened then was that a year later, when I went to Spain, I visited, and they said, Peter, something magical happened. While we didn't serve many dishes, I've never seen so many Singaporeans come and visit us. So these chefs then become our ambassadors. Now, STB obviously promotes Singapore as a destination, but sometimes you need to use reverse psychology. First, you let people talk about Singapore. They will come eventually. What are they doing? Through the awards in the US, with the Pinnacle Awards, we brought so many people to this country. And every year I already got somebody from Sydney writing in, when is the dates? I need to book flights. It's not anymore huge because we have so many festivals, but you can see the market has matured. The choices we have today, Peruvian cuisine, the first Peruvian chef didn't work out. Now we have Spanish restaurants right, left, and center. We bring a new cuisine. In 2019, I brought a Romanian chef in. And even for me, Romania, you think a little bit of Count Dracula and all that. The guy was exceptional. So our role today is no longer about Michelin stars. Anyhow, they run their own events and all that. It is about education, sharing, bring something new from destination nobody would have thought of. I spent time in Alaska a couple of months ago, and I want to bring more chefs from these destinations. We were on the east coast of Canada, the markets. My wife and I came back, and we went to our local markets, and we ended up buying some onion and leek because we didn't find any that came close. So it's not just about the culinary talent and the evolution of cuisine. It's also about promoting local produce. We have a theme, soul, soul, you think about soul food.
Do we have local produce?
Sustainability, organic, urban, and lifestyle. You may not have it local, but you have it in Malaysia, our neighbors. You go to Fraser's Hill, Cameron Island, the organic farms. I've visited some of them, and I'm actually impressed. Local produce, there's a lot of work to talk about hydroponics. By the way, in 1983, I had the first hydroponic garden in my office to grow my own herbs. Many people don't know that because it's like historic knowledge. So there's a lot of effort on the way to become self-sustainable. Sustainability is a key word in today's world. Get rid of the plastics where you can. You can't get rid of it completely, but we saw in the universities they now have plastic wraps that's actually organically disposable. So we are driving more culture and not the cheap Charlie kind of cultural event, dances and all that. It's about the history. Food, the reflection of food. We talk about Singapore food. Where does it come from? We don't really have a local history, but it was all brought in. So if you ever talk about transcending cuisines over the ages, and that's really the interesting part, so the evolution is not just what we've done the past 20, 25 years, but what's going back a century, what the British brought in, the Indians brought in, the Malays, the Chinese, the workers, and how it has evolved over century, over decades, and where we are going from here. So Singapore is really an amazing melting pot that offers so much. And if you go to Tamarind Hill, for example, the Thai food, if you know the chef, she loves cooking on charcoal, the real traditional way. You go to Java, that's a Punjab grill, and you challenge him for some of the real classic Indian dishes. Jigs Kalra, who was a chef at the first WGS in 96, like a godfather, controversial one, but a godfather of Indian cuisine. You get dishes. It's nice to have 3 stars, small and beautiful, but you must also keep traditions alive, because everything we do in life is based on traditions. So when you go, for example, Odette now, Julian, I've seen him from being the chef at the restaurant on top of the Swiss Hotel. He's got his stars now. He's #1 in Asia. And I'm so proud of this young man who's so full of energy, but who's also such a lovely person and character. Nuri Ivan Bream, who cooks transcendental cuisine with his Brazilian roots, some Ukrainian thrown in, some Middle Eastern, and then some Central American and Asian influences. You go to these places, yet at the same time, you've got a young local chef, Brendan from Bistro du Sommelier, who was taught by Patrick Heuberger, who was once nominated as the mentor chef of the year. And Brendan is now cooking on a worldwide competition on French bistro food. So we have come a long way.
We have truly come a long way. Unfortunately, the way is about up, but I'm going to make you this offer on national radio. Would you want to stay on for another half an hour to chat with us? Because I think you've just got so many stories to tell.
Subject to your schedule. How can I say no? Let's talk about food, because food has been my life. I just turned 65, and I think I have another 30 years left.
Okay, I'm not going to say goodbye yet, because we're going to have Peter Knipp join us for the next half an hour. We're going to extend this episode of Eat Drink Singapore till 12:30. So stay on right there with us. We'll continue our chat with Peter Knipp.
There's been an accident on the CTE towards the AYE before PIE Changi exit. Avoid lane 4. Also roadworks on Marymount Road towards Bishan Street 21 after Thompson Road. Avoid the left lane.
Covering your city 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
This is CNA 938. Understand Asia.
Now, Money Mind.
It's 12. I'm Stanley Leong with Chu Wei Lin, and thank you for joining us on Money Mind this hour. Eat Drink Singapore may have just ended, but you know what? It's not really quite ended, because we will continue our chat with Peter Knipp just in a moment, right here on CNA 938, continuing to talk about how foods evolved here in Singapore and the culinary scene. Not forgetting, of course, the World Gourmet Awards that takes place every year, has been since 1997.
Well, the need for climate change is more urgent than ever, but how relevant or effective are climate meetings like COP25? We'll have that conversation coming up later this hour. First, the news.
Iran has fired a series of ballistic missiles at 2 Iraqi air bases where US and coalition troops are housed. The attacks are in retaliation for the killing of its military commander Qasem Soleimani. There's been no word of any damage or casualties at the air bases so far. Authorities in Tehran have advised the US to withdraw its troops from the region to prevent the killing of more.
Then, and to our food ministry, please don't be so difficult on all the restaurants and new products, but continue doing a great job in protecting us. You got to get the right product, you got to wear the right flavor. Then you look at processes. You cook now, for example, en sous vide or slow cooking at certain temperatures to keep and maintain the maximum of nutrients. I think we have evolved a lot there. Sometimes when I go to supermarkets, I see younger people talking about they're getting more involved with all that. So there's already a lot of education going on. So we bring classics, we evolve them, and like many of our foods, which we call Singaporean, actually not Singaporean, but they are our hot favorites.
Our hawker favorites, yes.
Yeah, our hawker favorite. And let's talk a moment about this. And in the early years of World Gourmet Summit, we used to do the gourmet safaris. I used to be on a bus with a bunch of people, and all Singaporeans. And then in the beginning, mainly Singaporean before the tourists came. What's the history of a laksa? And I get all kinds of weird definitions. And I said to myself, come on, you're Singaporeans, this is your food. And they don't even know. So you take someone like Dr. Leslie T. I eat, I shoot,
I post.
I mean, this man is unbelievable. Where Sito has opened up the market internationally, and he is really an international ambassador. But you take a look at Leslie, and he doesn't just do eat, shoot, post. He cooks. And he posts online his learnings. And sometimes it takes him like 3, 6 months or a year to perfect it. Now, that's a foodie. Not the person that goes every day out eating, call himself a foodie. Like the food writers that we have, you can count them on one hand, maybe maximum two that are really into food. That means they go, they buy, they cook, and they make mistakes. I did this year a German traditional dish, a roast goose. I was so proud of it. The skin was fantastic. It was completely overcooked inside. It was like serving sawdust. You know, even the best ones, they screw up here and there. But if you come back to local food, yes, we have the Gourmet Awards. But what about, and this is to our government and to all the ministries involved, why are we not recognizing our legends? And when I say legends, I take Japan, living legends, the masters, the top of the craft. And you do not ask every John, Dick, and Harry who is the best, because 10 people give you 15 different answers. You talk to people that truly know. You make a proper selection process. And we have education competency, and we got people that are much smarter than I will ever be in 2 lifetimes. You got to come up with a process where you say, yes, this is one that has kept the tradition alive. He is the one that needs to go into the annals of history, not because we like, not because we think, but it's proven that it's a true legend in his craft. It could be the guy with the best laksa, it could be the guy with the best roast duck, but you take maybe 10 or 20 of the hawkers. We talk about hawker food. Professor Tomiko has done so much. There are several awards out there. I just think we're not doing enough to... We really claims that Singapore is a food city and people love their food, then we need to do something. We've got cultural medallion winners, yes or no, on music and the arts. Why don't we have a culinary cultural medallion? And not just one, because a lot of them are 60, 70, 80 years old. You know, we need to catch up. So do 5 or 10. Select based on factual, based on not popularity, but quality with people that know. Right. And these will be then cemented into a true Singapore history of food.
Is this a category you're considering for the World Gourmet Awards?
If I have backers, yes, that would be my swan song, definitely.
All right. The word is out. Looking for backers.
No, it's not just that. I mean, this is not just about sponsors. This is also getting the right ministries, getting the top brass involved, getting the ministries, getting the universities, and getting the top foodies, established top foodies, not the ones that write best or what have you. People that truly, truly know. And that in itself will already the first biggest challenge because, like I said, many people have many opinions. But we have so much to offer to the world. We are so good in many things that we are doing, but we are not doing enough to preserve it. World Gourmet Summit and at some other festival have done much to promote Singaporean chefs overseas. I met this guy, Jimmy Lim, in Taichung. Singaporean chef, was mentioned in the top 50. He's living since 12 years in Taichung in Taiwan.
In Taiwan, huh?
I'll bring him back as a guest chef because he's cooking Singapore food in a modern way over there. He's promoting Singapore. Now,
how is he doing there?
He goes over there, fell in love with the place, met the right person, found the right backer. I mean, this is diplomacy at its best. Even Napoleon, who was the very first head of state that knew how to use food for diplomacy by hiring Carême, who was an architect turned chef. That was the time food through diplomacy on the Austrian court, and from there it just went upwards. This is not whether you like some blonde guy liking hamburger. I mean, we are going down in the Stone Ages. This is about our culture. And every country has to be proud of their culture, has something to offer to the world. And this is where we have to do a lot more effort.
But would you say that the Singapore government has been, doing fairly well in terms of like pushing the whole UN, what was that? The heritage, hawker heritage food?
Okay, of course, definitely got a lot of mouth wagging, especially our neighbors are friend. There's no better fight than a food fight between Singapore and Malaysia, and the Indonesians standing by and say, hey guys, don't forget about us, and the Thais and the loaf. Everyone has something to offer. And I think the Singapore government has done a lot. But does the UN really help, or should we have something self-generated which becomes a global standard of, like I said, a culinary medallion, gold medallion or something like that? I will never say this government has not done enough. What STB has done, even SIA with their culinary panel, what the government has done, I think is remarkable in many countries. But take Thailand, for example, how they promote it. This is part, you can go to Thailand and say, Bangkok, I want to open a Thai restaurant. Blueprint, everything is ready. They even support you for a while at least, no matter where you are in the world. I don't think we have something like that. We have a very different approach to it, which is perfectly fine. But at least we got to do more for our local talent, both internally and well as externally. One of our lifetime achievements
Chinese New Year is coming, and it's time to shop.
Go to BHG now. They've got all your New Year essentials at affordable prices. And with 6 locations island-wide, you won't have to travel far. From 10th January, get yourself a Dyson Cyclone V10 Absolute Vacuum Cleaner and $100 BHG vouchers at $588 with minimum $800 net spend. For card members, with just a minimum of $600 net spend, while stocks last.
BHG, all your Chinese New Year needs in one place.
What defined my life? Jenny Chua as a general manager, Raffles Hotel. Do you know that today even my Raffles Hotel culinary team meets, and our 30th anniversary is coming up, 2021.
Will you be taking charge of the menu?
No, we are still about 90 to 100 of the original culinary stuffs that gets together, and some of them come from Las Vegas or from Tokyo or from what have you. We have an actual gathering. This is a bond that the only way it's broken when you go and visit your ancestors. But we opened a property, we made it globally the best. And my biggest pride during the time with the Raffles was we had the best breakfast in the world 2 years in a row. And people say, why are you so proud of the breakfast? What about your fine dining? I say, you wake up in a hotel. What's the first thing that you get exposed to? What makes your decision to come back? This has been one of my DNAs that I've been proudest of. Yes, we had great restaurants and great variety and all that. And I was very fortunate to have amazing teams that are all now their own executive chef. Eric Theo, who runs a catering company, who is very big in MediaCorp. Tony, who is a corporate chef for the Park Royal Group, which includes Pan Pacific. You have William Zoe as executive chef at the Shangri-La. I mean, the list goes on and on. Louis Tay was a banquet chef. He became the first Singaporean Asian to win the Culinary Olympics in gold. Something that even I didn't manage. But, you're proud when your offspring is performing so well. And when they put Singapore on the map, we have created magic. And we'll continue to do it as long as we can breathe, as long as we believe in it. And while I may not run it full time for a long time, but there's so much to offer, and especially when it comes to food history.
Well, what are your top dining picks and your favorite restaurants in Singapore? Maybe you can list 3?
Lynn, wrong question. I'll tell you my answer, and don't get offended, please. I've been asked many times. My answer has actually always been the same. Is it for breakfast? Is it for lunch? Is it for high tea? Is it for dinner? Is it for boyfriend, for girlfriend, for wife, for husband, for mistress, for business partner, on your own or with your bodies? Oh, excuse me, I said something wrong. What is the occasion? Food is an emotion. You can wake up one morning, You feel like you're roti prata at your favorite store, and you get served a wonton, you wouldn't enjoy the wonton because your mindset is ready for that. So there are, of course, top choices. But I like to answer, I must have a curry a week or two a week. It's like the apple a day. I love my wonton, but right now I'm trying to lose weight. So no noodles, no rice,
No carbs.
no mian bao, no carbs, basically. But it's okay because now I get very good in vegetarian. And I look for better vegetables and better methods of cooking at it. Food as an emotion, and I think that's what makes food so exciting. You can have the same meal under two different circumstances, maybe even at the same place. Let's not even talk at home, let's say in a restaurant. And you come back with a complete different impression and memory. But we all need to eat. We all need to enjoy that moment for whatever the occasion is. And for every occasion, I think we have plenty of choices. So you WhatsApp me and I'll give you some recommendation. If the other half needs to either make up or the anniversary is coming up or whatever it is, there are plenty of choices. And we should be very proud what we have achieved in Singapore. When I say we, that is the entire F&B profession. Everyone that contributed. Because this is a magical country. This is a magical place. But we have to be careful that we don't over-promote the so-called academics. I think we got plenty of academics. We need to promote service culture. We need to promote parents, schools, universities that teach these subjects and make people embrace it. It doesn't matter what you do. Everyone is in a service. But to be a professional server, to be a professional chef, to be a professional restaurant manager, a sommelier of distinction, the skill set. We talk about sushi chefs that needs to learn 7 years to be a master of his craft. Hey, not so easy with some of the local delights that we have, and at the same time to the public out there, and please don't get me wrong, please don't be so cheap. If your hawker does something really well, give him 50 cents or $1 or $2 extra, they deserve it. Make him happy. My favorite chicken rice seller is selling his chicken rice for $2.50 or $3.50. I give him $5 every time I go.
不用找 no need change.
不用找，因为我很喜欢他做的盖饭
I love your
啊
Mandarin.
所以我吃的时候啊5块钱这么便宜吗？
对
So cheap already, why do you want to shortchange them?
Right, yeah. I mean, thanks for reminding Singaporeans of how much of good, long culinary legacy, heritage that we have in our own home street food culture. And we have been speaking with Peter Knipp, who has been seeing the whole scene evolve here in Singapore. But really, we want to keep our roots and celebrate them for as much as we can, the here and now, living legends and not, when they're gone. Thank you so much, Peter, for spending time with us and sharing your thoughts on the culinary scene here in Singapore.
Thank you, Stanley. Thank you, Lynn. It was an honor.